Hey there, Deluxe fans! Hope you're feeling particularly magical today. In today's video, we are going to be discussing Pixar's Turning Red and the surprising way that the new movie ended. Stay tuned, because Turning Red was full of symbols and themes that we are going to unpack that will help us all understand the ending a little bit better. Be warned, there are lots of spoilers ahead. Pixar's Turning Red took place in the early 2000s and showed us the life of Mei Lin Lee, better known as Mei, as she learned how to deal with the curse that was passed down through her family for generations, thanks to one of her ancestors. Sun Yi, Mei's ancestor, worshipped the red panda and believed them to be spiritual creatures. And on the night of the red moon, when all of the men and soldiers of her village were away at war, Sun Yi prayed to her deities to give her the strength to protect her people. This prayer was answered by granting her the ability to transform into a giant red panda in order to protect her family and the rest of her village. This gift was then passed down to all of the women in Sun Yi's bloodline. But as times changed, so did traditions, and this gift warped into a curse. Not only was Mei growing up and going through puberty, but she was also dealing with the fact that she turns into a giant red panda. This was something she tried to keep from her parents and her friends at school for fear of what they would think or what would happen to her. But eventually, Ming, Mei's mother, found out. This was when she explained to Mei that this was something all of the women in her family go through, and that there was a way to reverse it. This ritual would involve waiting until the upcoming red moon. Then, Mei would be transported to a sort of spirit world where she would then be expected to leave her panda behind and seal it away in a trinket of sorts. And because they would have to wait nearly a month for the next red moon, Ming decided to keep Mei at home and on lockdown for the time being. Mei surprised her though when she learned to keep her red panda under control, and was then allowed back at school and allowed to spend time with her friends. Over the course of Mei's journey of growth and self-discovery, she would not only form a deeper bond with the red panda within her, but she would also create a deeper rift between her and her mother. And by the time the ritual came around, Mei decided that she wanted to keep control of her red panda, as it had become a part of her life. This of course upset her mother, who felt that she was lashing out and betraying her. However, after a small fight, Ming, along with the rest of Mei's family members, learned to process their own grief and let go of the pressures that they put on themselves. In other words, Mei decided to keep her red panda, which not only pleased Sun Yi, who viewed the pandas as a gift, but also healed the generational trauma that had been passed down through her family. Mei finds out relatively early on in the film that the transformation that her body was going through, and I mean the literal transformation into a red panda, was a sort of rite of passage that every young woman in the Lee family had to go through and learn to overcome. Now, as we said, the red panda became more and more of a burden the more society changed, and the Lee family began to break away from the traditions. Therefore, most of the women in the Lee family, including all of Mei's aunts, mother, and grandmother, chose to rid themselves of the curse through the blood moon ritual. Mei is different from all of her elders though, as when she learned to control her panda form more and more, she grew less afraid of it. You see, unlike Mei's mother and grandmother, Mei's first priority wasn't getting rid of the red panda. Mei's first priority was, and has always been, to try to live a normal life as best as she could. And in her case, it happened to involve her wanting to go to a 4-town concert that was scheduled to be held on the same night as the blood moon ritual. Although, at first, Mei doesn't realize this. Throughout the first half of the film, Mei was under the impression that the concert would be held a week before the ritual. So she and her 3 friends begin the ultimate side hustle by selling panda time to her fellow students. And after doing everything she had to, including attending the birthday party of her arch nemesis at the time, Tyler, Mei was able to earn $800 for her and her 3 friends to purchase their tickets. This was where things took a turn for the worse, however. And just as Mei was celebrating her successful hustle on top of Tyler's house, she began to get irritated as he continued to boss her around and commanded her to do things to keep the party going. This enraged Mei, especially her red panda form, which then went on to aggressively attack Tyler before her mother stepped in to stop her from actually hurting anyone. Mei's mother gets blamed for allowing Mei to act that way, and she in turn lashes out at Mei's friends, blaming them for everything that went on. She even accused them of using Mei for their own personal gain, which was far from the truth. However, Mei was so afraid of disappointing her mother that she didn't speak up and sided with her mother instead of her friends, who did nothing wrong. A few days after that was the night of the 4-town concert, and Mei was preparing for the blood moon ritual, during which she was transported to a spirit-like forest, where she was prompted to step through a mirror that would separate her from the red panda spirit. As she began to step through though, Mei had second thoughts, and instead broke away from the ritual and fled from her family to attend the 4-town concert and reunite with her friends. Mei lashing out caused her mother's rage-filled red panda to break free from the pendant and sent her on a rampage. It was up to Mei, her grandmother, her aunts, Mei's friends, and 4-town to sing and gyrate her mother into submission, which was when the ritual took place once again. May meets her mother in the spiritual forest, and the two have a heart-to-heart where her mother realizes that she was being too hard on her daughter, and she tells May not to hold back, seemingly showing that she finally accepted that her daughter was not going to be the exact same person she was. So we can't help but ask ourselves, why did May decide to keep the red panda while the rest of her family chose to part with theirs in the end? Well, let's think about how May adapted to her life with her new ability. At first, she was freaking out and terrified about what was happening to her, which is entirely justifiable. But as the movie progressed, May didn't shy away from the red panda, and instead, she slowly learned to live alongside the alternate form. This was much different from how her ancestors and elders appeared to approach that power, as it was passed down to them by Sun Yi. Ming, May's mother, was the first one to warn May about the darkness that comes with the red panda, and she lets her know that the more the panda gets released, the more powerful it would become, and the less control May would have over its spirit. This is likely the same views towards the panda that were imprinted on May's grandmother and aunts, meaning that they learned to live in fear of the panda and what it would become instead of learning to understand it. May was very different in the sense that when she'd learned to control her emotions at her transformation, with the help of her friends of course, she learned to become one with the red panda and live her life in peace. While the rest of her family grew to view the spirit trapped within them as a curse and something to live in fear of, May saw it as a personal strength. To her, the red panda wasn't a weakness in any way, and instead it made her more complete. The red panda helped May become her own person and truly embrace who she was inside. And this feeling is likely what helped May come to terms with keeping the red panda spirit inside of her instead of getting rid of it like the rest of her family did. She might not have known what was going to come next for her or what would happen after deciding to keep her red panda, but she realized that it was part of her life journey to figure it out. It was something that she was going to have to do for herself, not something that she could just hide away or get rid of. The red panda was a part of her. Now, May's family, as you know, did decide to get rid of their pandas again after they had to break their pendants and use their powers to save May's mother. This doesn't mean that they still feared the red panda as much as they used to, because it's likely that they became more comfortable with the power now more than they had ever been. But they didn't feel the same way that May did, and they all learned to live without the red panda for years and decades. So it honestly makes sense that they would choose to let the red panda spirit go and separate themselves from it once again. Only now do they have awesome new pendants and trinkets. The beauty of Pixar's Turning Red is the light that it shined on the concept of generational trauma and the rifts that it can start to form between parents and their children. Turning Red really focuses on the relationship that May has with her mother, Ming, and how their relationship begins to change as adolescence and puberty begin to affect May. We saw this as May began to distance herself from her mother, and also how overbearing and protective Ming was of her daughter. Well, Ming likely felt as though this was the way a mother should act towards her daughter, as it was what she experienced in her household as a child. Growing up, Ming's mother was just as overprotective as she was with May, and this ultimately put a strain on their relationship. And though Ming doesn't want to see this happen between her and her daughter May, she also didn't know the proper way to handle her daughter and accept all of the changes that she was going through. And since she didn't know how to handle it or react to it, May felt as though she has yet to earn the approval of her mother. In turn, that caused May to lash out against her mother, in a similar way that Ming lashed out at her own mother, thus creating a similar rift between mother and daughter. Only this time, May was able to close the rift, and the two ended up closer to each other, and with a better understanding of who they both were as individuals. And this healing likely stemmed from May learning how to make peace with her own personal red panda. At the end of the day, Turning Red touched on several themes and messages throughout the film's runtime, but the one that was at the forefront of everything was the fact that emotions are normal, and it's okay to feel them no matter what they are. It's okay to be happy, it's okay to be sad, and it's definitely okay to be angry sometimes. Emotions are something that everyone has, and they shouldn't be suppressed or pushed aside. The entire reason that May was able to form such a strong connection with her panda was because she chose to embrace it instead of fight it. And at the end of the film, she doesn't actually have insight as to how things are going to play out for her after confronting her mother with the truth, or after choosing to keep her red panda spirit. She doesn't know how it will affect her life, or more importantly, how it will affect the relationship she has with her mother. But she knows that the red panda is a part of her life, and it's important for her to stay true to herself and who she is. May learn to recognize change and to handle the changes that were going on around her and to her. And in the end, May was able to leave her comfort zone and show her mother that she was ready to live her own life. And that's something that we think everyone could learn from. It's important to live the life that is best for you, even if you might upset some people. Now, that isn't to say that it's okay to intentionally upset anyone, but it's important to know that you deserve to live a happy life as an individual, even if your definition of a happy life is different from everyone else's. Be sure to let us know what you thought of Pixar's new movie Turning Red in the comments below. As for now, that's all, Disney fans. Let us know what video you'd like to see next in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more magically packed videos.